Up and say hello. How are you, Jonas?
Hi guys, I'm fine. How are you?
We're good.
Thank you so
Absolutely
much for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. So, your name is Jonas, and you
Yes.
have a game called Prim coming out. Tell us about it, my friend.
Okay. Prim is a 2D point and click adventure game that is using art that reminds the player of the animated films by Tim Burton. I think this is the most obvious thing that you notice when you look at it for the first time. But I think we still found a way to take this art style and make it our own in some way. I think it isn't a ripoff. At least I hope it isn't a ripoff. And it's Death's daughter. And it's basically about Prim, Death's daughter, having the same dream over and over again. She dreams of a human boy crying out for her help. And of course, our heroine is determined to answer the call and help him. This is basically when the players are thrown in because her father is kind of a helicopter parent and doesn't have any trust in Prim's abilities, who is growing up right now and basically stops being a child, at least in her view. So he's strictly forbidden her to enter the realm of the living, where she must go to save that boy. And it's the player's first job to trick the dad and escape. And then when she finally reaches Earth, things start happening that get the plot going. This is what I can give away just yet.
So father-daughter relationships sound a lot like they are in the realm of the living as they do in the land of the dead.
Yeah, right. This was basically the idea that got me going into the game. I was asking myself, okay, what if death, personification of death, really loves somebody? Can death love somebody, or can he not because he's taking lives all day? That's his job. And is he able to feel something? And if he loves somebody, what if that somebody is his daughter? Of course, something that you would locate in our realms, not in the realm of the dead. But I think this is what makes the game interesting, that dynamic of father-daughter, but the father is death, and they live in the land of the dead.
Now, your entire game is in black and white. What sort of challenges did that bring out of creating an adventure game without the colors popping and highlighting objects that way and all that sort of thing?
He came prepared. Love it.
I didn't get the ending because you were cut off but I'm going to start answering the first bit. I think it has advantages and disadvantages at the same time. The obvious advantage is that I think it looks very beautiful, and I think the art is one of the game's biggest selling points, that is able to convince players by just looking at that beautiful art. And of course, it comes with its challenges as well. As you pointed out, when you design a background in black and white, you have to make sure, okay, that the design, so where do I want players to look, where do I want players to examine things a little more closely, that this is working just as well as it is with a colored background. I think there are common traps that each background designer faces when designing a point-and-click adventure background, like don't fall into that Scooby-Doo effect trap, so don't make interactable items different looking than the rest. So, okay, I know I have to click this is easy. So you have to find a balance between, okay, this might be so that players notice this particular item seems to be important, but also in a not too obvious way, which is, I think, almost the same line of thought that we have to follow when designing in black and white. We work with contrasts a lot. Tim Burton has mainly been influenced by German Expressionism, which works with shadows a lot, and I think this is part of the fascination of the aesthetic. So this is another advantage because it can create a certain mood quite easily. So yeah, it's a two-sided coin. I think it's a main selling point. It looks beautiful, but we have to keep in mind at some point, okay, it seems to be difficult. Interestingly, our current artist for our inventory items is colorblind, and this is why he found the game to be very interesting, because he finally says, okay, I think I see the game like everybody else does. I don't know if that's true, because he probably sees it a bit differently, but I found this interesting as well.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I think, beyond just, looking gorgeous on its own, one look at a screenshot will make you fall in love with it. But the black and white makes it unique, too. I'm kind of racking my brains to think of adventure games, at least, that have gone all black and white. So, like, it really stands. I mean, it's gorgeous, and it stands out as distinctive as it is. So, I mean, I think that's a great selling point.
Yeah, there really has been the temptation to switch the color on as soon as you go to the land of the living as a stylistic device of showing the difference, like in the Wizard of Oz, kind of thing. But we really resisted this temptation, to be honest. I think it would have been an obvious design choice, but we went for, okay, we're going to follow this black and white scheme all the time. And I'm quite happy with the decision.
Yeah, you want to really lean into a strength, right? So that's great. I got a question about Death's daughter. I would imagine the daughter of Death would have some special powers. Does she?
Yeah, of course. Some of which I can't give away just yet, but the players are going to discover them pretty early in the game. There is something that I can give away because it has already been teased in our demo, which is, by the way, which is currently live on Steam and playable at all times. There is a sidekick that Prim encounters very early in the game, and it is an eyeball with spider's legs. And one of the first challenges the players meet is catching it. We don't really know why it's there. It seems to be popping up in some corner of the room, and players need to catch it in order to basically escape from Prim's room. And the spider eye is going to have at the end of the demo, there's this one really, in my opinion, but really cool scene where Spider Eye pops out Prim's original eyeball and crawls into her eye socket instead of it. And from that point on, it is going to enable the players to see things that Prim usually couldn't see, because Spider Eye is a creature with certain abilities. So there is going to be, okay, you cannot see this when you're just Prim, but you can see it when you kind of activate Spider Vision.
So when you guys have been developing this game for a while, right? I remember first seeing it back in like 2019, maybe 2018.
Yeah, right. But development went through different stages. At first, in 2018, when I started working on the game, it was just an idea. Before working on Prim, I have worked on 3 tiny Game Jam adventure games. When I was participating in Adventure Jam, and after that I said to myself, okay, I'm tons of fun to make games, and I want to make a full-length title. This was my very ambitious goal then. So I started browsing old documents of mine, and I was trying to brainstorm and finally came up with that idea. And the first thing I did was contacting artists I knew, because I can't draw at all. So we came up with a design for the characters and the world, and it all felt really, really coherent and natural and fitting. And the next step was, okay, we're going to build that demo, and after we did, we found out, okay, this is cool, but if we want to make it a full game, we need funding, of course. So we went to Kickstarter and had a very successful and fun and cool and basically, in my view, perfect campaign last year, which brought us overwhelming support by a lovely community that we built up front, and finally made us able to start producing the game, or planning to produce the game, because what happened afterwards is we started negotiating with a lot of publishers and finally ended up signing with Application Systems Heidelberg, that you might know of, Francisco Gonzalez fame, like games like Lamplight City or Rosewater, and were really, really thrilled. Finally, as a final step, even received a decent amount of state funding at the beginning of this year. And this is basically when we really could switch gears when producing the game and really dive deep into, okay, we now have what we need to deliver what we promised on. Yeah, and now we're in the middle of development and we're hoping to release next year. That's the plan.
Wow, that's incredible. So you're hoping to release next year. What does the middle of development? Explain that. Like, I know I've heard, it's different stages of development. What constitutes the middle of development for those of us who don't actually build games?
I always say it's the meaty part in the middle, the fleshy part. It depends on which department you're looking at. When we look at background design, we're pretty far. I think we've finalized about 2/3 of the game's backgrounds, and most of them are already implemented in Walkable and set up in the engine. When it comes to music, we're already quite far. Only a couple of tracks left. When you look at other departments like animations, we're behind schedule because these animations take a lot longer than we expected, because we try to do as many of them as we can frame by frame, which looks the best in the end, but it takes a lot of time and effort and many rounds of feedback, and once more, and it's cool, and it's just an overwhelming amount of animations because we don't want to have custom animations or turning to black screen when something exciting is actually happening and deserves to be shown. And since we have only one animation artist, who is doing a great job, but it takes a long time. So in this regard, we're behind schedule, but I'm positive that we're going to make it if we really do hurry up a bit. Other things happened that made development a little harder. We had a team member from Russia, which we couldn't pay anymore. So things happen these days, but now we're back on track, and I think we're going to make it. But I would rather deliver something brilliant than unfinished.
Absolutely. Okay, we're almost out of time, Jonas, but I have a quick question. Is this a comedy game? Is it drama? Is it a little horror? Is it a little bit of everything? How would you describe it?
Let's start with the horror element. I think pretty soon in development we had to really at least make sure that we ourselves understood, okay, how far do we want to go in terms of displaying gore or violence or whatever. When you make a creepy kind of game, I think there are examples where these games really do go far, like just really go very far in terms of, okay, psychological and even visual horror. We decided not to do that. We decided to take a similar route as Burton does. We do creepy stuff. There are a lot of things happening with severed limbs, with eyeballs, with spiders, with creepy Halloweeny stuff, but we never cross a certain line in which we think, okay, it's not suitable for kids. When we exhibited at Gamescom, we had to be rated by the USK, which is the German agency for age control. And they gave us a 12 and above, which surprised me. I was secretly hoping, okay, they might give us a 6 and above. And Volker, my publisher from Application System, told me, okay, it's not that bad. Because actually most players are going to be a bit older. I have witnessed many younger kids playing the demo and really enjoying it, so I think that you can definitely play it when you're a little younger. Don't tell anybody I said that, but I think you can. You cannot really call it a horror game. It's horror themed, but it's kind of giving you goosebumps from time to time, being a little creepy, but never making you actually afraid of anything. And it's supposed to be funny. I hope it's funny. You always do when you're writing comedy-related lines, then you hope that your humor somehow gets across. I think in the demo it worked quite well. It had some hilarious scenes in it that I watched many streamers laugh about, like death dancing to disco music. So in it, but at its heart, I think it's a serious story. I think it's a story that wants to be taken seriously in some way. And I think that many working examples show that this is possible, that every good comedy works because it also has sad elements or tragic elements. And this is what makes us laugh. We want comic relief because we've just experienced something profound, maybe. And this is the plan. Let's hope it works.
So it's a serious style game with comedic aspects, beautifully illustrated in black and white. It's a very appealing game. Jonas, we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate you working on this wonderful game, and we look forward to seeing in 2023, my friend. Thank you so much.